All right. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're at. Could be even good evening if you're on in the European Union area. My name is Kevin Poorman. I'm a developer advocate here at Salesforce.com, and today we're going to be working on sort of part one of a two-phase thing that I think is going to be really big and really cool. So we're going to start off with a little bit of a vision casting thing going on here. I'm going to give you an idea of what we're going to work on. And then we're going to work on the boring parts today, right? And then next Thursday, I've got a special guest coming and we're going to build out the UI for this. So what are we working on? We're going to be working on building a query builder specifically for Flow. Right now, you're thinking to yourself, well, you can already make queries in Flow, Kevin. What are you talking about? There are a couple limitations to the ability to make queries in Flow that people have brought to my attention and said, Kevin, how would you solve this? And so I put on my thinking cap, and then the gears caught fire up in my head. And so once we got that put out, I had an idea, and we reached out to a couple people, and that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to work on building the back-end Apex side of a query builder. And the idea here is you're going to be able to use Flow to configure a query and pass that information to Apex through an invocable method. And then that invocable method will run the query and return to you a list of objects. Okay. Now, we're going to be doing a whole lot of why are we doing that bit today? It's all going to come together next week when we start building out the UI for this. We're going to be building what's called a custom property editor. And when you have a custom property editor and a invocable method, you tie those together, what you end up with is something very powerful inside Flow that allows you to make all sorts of really wicked cool things going on. So I've been describing this internally to the people I've been talking to about as the Wicked Cool project. And today we're going to actually code that Wicked Cool project. So as usual, we'll start off by creating a new class. We're going to call this one Flow Query Build. I'm going to stop that. I'm going to create a folder here. So in our classes, we've got integration recipes, invocable recipes. You know what? I guess I could go in invocable recipes. Let's do invocable recipes. So we'll do create Apex class. We're going to do Flow Query Builder. Do I want Flow Query Builder or I want Flow Query? We'll do Flow Query, okay? And I'm going to put this in a custom directory. I'm going to put it in the invocable recipes folder. Standard inherited sharing. Okay. Oh, not inherited class, inherited sharing. And we're going to nuke the constructor because we don't need that. Now, just so everyone's following along here, I'm going to put in a nice little description. This class provides the Apex side of a Flow Query Builder. Flow Query Builder. Flow developers use this class by dragging or adding its invocable method to the flow canvas. Okay, flow canvas, great. All right, so got a class here. Now, whenever you're doing invocable method work, there's a few things you have to keep in mind. One, you get to have one parameter, and two, it has to be a list. And that list can't be object. It has to be a particular kind of object. So it can be an S object or an ID or a string or that sort of thing, but it can't be object. So we have to be a little creative with our types and our type safety and going back and forth. Now, if you've been doing Apex recipes work with me for a while, you should remember that we had a whole little sidebar week where we went in, we created a funky type safe generic reusable list utilities class or collection utilities class where we could pass in things and get it rekeyed as a map and all that work. And one of the things we talked about there was you can always go from a concrete S object. So we can always go from account to S object. Okay, and you can always cast that way. Always cast account to S object. You can, I'll say you can always cast. There we go. That's a better comment. And on the flip side, because of the way casting works in Apex, you can, on the caller side, manually cast that back to account or whatever concrete S object type it was. Okay, and we're going to use something very similar to that too. If you remember from our invocable methods recipes that I'm going to flip to here, we also had some interesting work we had to do with pulling in a request object, because remember we get, let me scroll down here, our invocable method gets to have one parameter, and since we don't want to pass in just a list of the same things, we're going to have to pass in a list of our custom object that we're going to create in order to be able to query this. So what I'm going to do is inside my public class here, I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to say public flow query exception, and it's going to extends exception. Okay. Public class. That's better. I was like, why does that not look right? Okay, and this is going to be for our, actually we got to do, we're going to say description. This is our flow query exception class. No big deal there. And we'll do another one here. We'll do public class. Remember, we're going to have to fully classify these. So what we're going to do is we're going to do flow query request. So we'll have request, if I can type, and public class request. Nope. Like that. And I'll do public class result. Flow query result. I think that works. You can do that naming convention, and we'll give ourselves some helpful hints here for what we're talking about. At description, this class models the input data we'll need to make a query. The flow, the custom property editor will make this class sing. Make this class will incredibly useful with type safety and guided options. Okay, and we'll come back to that class here. This one is going to be our description is going to class represents the results of running a query and is reported and is passed back to the calling flow. Okay. And there we go, we got that. Let's see, we got a couple of questions here. Raj says, when I say flow, is it screen flow or triggered flow, or can it be used in both kinds of flows? Raj, we're going to be able to use this wherever we can invoke an action, because all of the configuration steps with that custom property editor, and again, that's next week, so tune in next week, but all of that stuff is going to be for the developer to do, the flow developer to do. The end user won't see any of this surface to them. Okay, it's going to be, we're going to be able to pick a lot of this information up and do things with type safety and figure all that out in our component that becomes the custom property editor. So that's sort of the secret sauce that takes this from being handy to being super useful. Okay, so we've got our request and our results class here, and then down here we can actually get rid of that, and I'm going to do a annotated method. We'll do invocable method, and then parentheses we'll do name, and I'm going to do builder. So this is going to read flow query dot builder. Okay, and our label is going to be, we can't do double quotes. Silly tab 9. There we go. The label is flow query builder. And then we'll do, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a method. We'll do public static. We're going to return a list of flow query dot result, like that, and we're going to call this one builder. And do we want to call it builder, because it's actually going to be the thing that invokes the method, so not builder. So we'll do execute query, and we're going to leave the name here because that's the name of the action we want to show up in the UI, and the labels lightning query, flow query builder, and execute query. And we're going to have this take in a we can do a list of flow query dot request. No, not result. Request. There we go. And we're going to call this one requests. Okay. Now, I wonder if I can just sort of tighten this up by doing things like this. I don't know that that's going to save, so we're going to try it. Now that I've already typed it, I can always undo it really quickly. Yeah, we got some comments on it. Hey, it's good to see everybody here on the chat this morning. If you want to join us on the chat, you can always join in and then ask questions, give me a hard time. I had one guy who promised on Twitter he was going to stay and join me this week and then keep count of the typos I made. So that's always fun. And yeah, I hope everyone is having a great week. This is going to be super cool when this all comes together, but I knew we were not going to be able to do it all together in one. All right, so line 29, execute query. Okay, so first thing we got is this name thing. So let's go look at our existing one. So we have label and description. All right, that makes sense. So this is going to be label, and we're going to do description. Oh, flow. I can type, not. Okay, and then so we figured out that one, and then missing return statement. Okay, so you're right. We're gonna return new list of result, like that, just for grins and giggles right now. Clean up some of our error codes, make sure that this is, we're not missing anything, but it looks like it's gonna save this time. Let it do that here. And let's go with, anybody else have comments? Nope, no more comments here. Are we going to save? Taking a long time to save today. Long time to save. Come on. There's this, little kids. There's this, oh, fail. Invocable methods do not support parameter or type flow request. Now I bet you that's because I forgot to. No, public class, context search result. And then over down here, I've got context search request, input params. So let's see, return of flow result. And this is going to do a list of return result, public static. Why are we not liking that? List result, maybe it just doesn't, flow query. And we'll do flow query. Result and request are probably result and result. List request, we'll do flow query request. Maybe just generic request and result it didn't like. Look here. Let's see. Those are public class results. In our example recipe for invocable methods, we've got it set up to be public class context search result. It has an invocable variable in there that we don't have, but that shouldn't be a big deal. But they do have invocable variables. Maybe we need an invocable variable. We'll see what this comes back with. Search failed to run. Invocable methods do not support parameter of type list flow query request. Now that seems just weird. Public inherited sharing class. We're going to make this, we're going to set this up so we can, there we go. We can compare these two. Make that a little wider. Public inherited sharing class, invocable methods, recipes, public inherited sharing class, flow query. Okay, so that's going to match. We have a method, an exception class that matches. We have a context search request. We have a request here. Let's just add a invocable variable. Invocable variable. And we'll do label equals test variable, and we'll do description okay, and then we'll just do test. We're not going to make it required. I don't want that there. I always try to put commas in there because they feel like parameters, but they're not. So we're going to do public list. I'm going to make public capitalized. Public list of, we'll do s-object. And we'll do input. And I'm not sure that I just want to make sure this compiles, because that's not terribly useful to me yet. So we'll do this here. We'll do at invocable variable, and we'll do label equals test output, and we'll do description is equal to test. Okay, and then we'll say public list s-object. We'll do results like that. Yeah. Now will you save? Let's clear that out here. Doot. Okay. No, invalid flow type flow query result. That's because I don't have a dot there. All right, so we'll put the query result in there. We'll let it do its saving thing. Okay, I feel confident that we've gotten to the point where we can at least, make this, functionally work. We'll make this the full screen again. Now we have to think about what is it we might need in our request in order to make a query. And one of the things that I want to highlight here is that we may have some, things that could go into a query. There's a whole legion of them, right? We could have fields. So let's break it down. Sockle has, and we're going to do, it has a select clause and it has a subquery clause, and it has a from clause. And thankfully, that's not going to be terribly complicated because we don't have joins in Sockle. So we have a select clause, we have a from clause, we have a select from where clause, and this could be complex, right? We can we can have a lot of things in here. We can have multiple and, or, and multiple and or clauses to go with that. Select asterisk ID from object where blah, and then I'm going to say, oh here, let's just sockle. Let's just verify sockle recipes. Pull open that. Let's look at some of our queries in here. From account with security enabled. So we're going to have a with security enabled portion. The security enforced, I mean. And then we've got, let's see, probably don't need to worry about chunking or field values. So in terms of clauses, we still have that. We might have a order by. So we could have order by, and then we can have a limit clause. This is going to be an order by clause. And let's see, what other things do we have in here? Order by, and then we're going to say with security enforced. We've got an offset, perhaps. Offset clause. And do we probably not going to do aggregate queries in this, at least to start with. Junction objects would be handled with security enforced. Okay, so that's we don't have a group by in here. Grouped results. Nope. Just the aggregate query grouping. Okay, so let's call that a good map of what our inputs are going to have to be. Now we can let's just start building this out here. So we're going to say public, and I'm going to do we'll do Boolean. This will be fun. Boolean fields all, or we'll do field, because we can do automatic field grouping. So what we'll do is we'll say string. No, I don't want string. I mean, is that an enum? Let's look at that. So I've got a browser window open here. I'm going to search for, and I'm going to look for, we're going to say, we'll say it's sockle fields all, maybe. Reload. Okay, it doesn't like that, so let's do Chrome, and I'll do a new window, make it big, and we'll do sockle fields all. This is just released, so we're probably gonna, yeah, here we go. Here's it's a new Spring feature. No, that's not what I want. Is there not a Salesforce one? Okay, well, so you can say fields all. Well, let's experiment. Okay, so in our query, or in here, we can either say we want all the fields, the custom fields, or the standard fields. So we could do an enum, but the enums have to be top level. So we could do flow query dot flow query field grouping preselected fields. So we'll do public enum, and we'll do pre-selected fields. That's a class level thing, so we'll do pre-selected fields. And nope, we're going to do all standard or custom. So we'll do, this one is going to be a, let's do flow query dot field, what do I call that? Pre-selected fields. Pre-selected fields, fields option, and we'll do get. Yeah, we don't need that. Okay, so fields option. Okay, now unfortunately we are going to have to start giving these out, so let's get rid of this. And it's just going to be our pre-selected fields. Oh, but if we do pre-selected fields, we're limited to 200 records. That's okay. This will be, we're going to have another way around it. So pre-selected fields. Pre-selected fields, the description is for use with fields, sockle statement. Field sockle statement, and that could probably make that better, but we'll do it that way. So if we didn't want to do that, we could also have public, we'll do public string, selected fields. We'll do at bookable method description is going to be comma separated list of requested fields. So we've got both of those sort of things covered. Let's look at our invocable methods recipes here. We're not, in our definitions here, we're not saying that, you know, we're not doing anything other than defining the variables. We're not giving them getters or setters, so we'll leave that like that. And then, let's see, one of those two things has to be true, or we're going to throw an exception, but I don't know of a way of doing, you know, one of these, either of those has to be true. So we'll keep going on here. If you want to use a subquery, you're going to have to pre-formatted select clause. Use the pre-formatted select clause. Use this if you need a subquery. Okay. So we've got those two. Just start winnowing these down here. Anybody got, yeah, Adi's got, you got a browser window in Chrome. I do. It's a little thing I'm working on. It's going to be quite fun and interesting when I get it working. It still has a little bit of like, I can't actually like load Google for some reason, bugs, but we're working on that. So now we're going to need a from clause. I'm trying to think if there's a reason why this is ever going to be anything other than an S object. Because if we treat it as an S object, then we have some type safety, and we can define it as being, you know, ending in, but we might run into issues with custom settings. And I don't know that we need that because custom settings are available in other ways. So let's just do this. We're going to say at invocable variable. This one's going to be, this is going to be from object, from what object, and we'll do description s object name. Okay, and this is where it gets really fun next week, because we're going to be able to calculate and provide you a guided list of objects that this is related to. So if you're going to choose to pull in from, I don't know, account, you can't have a subclause that a subquery that's going to be related to a completely unrelated object. So we'll be able to enforce that a little bit, and then we'll do public. We'll do s_object from object. Okay. So we got a from clause. And the where clause is going to be, this is going to be the tricky bit. So we can do at invocable variable where clause string. Description is going to be custom where clause defined as a string. And that could be dicey. I've been adding commas where they aren't needed. Okay, but then we'll do public string where clause string. That's not an object. That needs to be start with a lowercase w, Kevin. Okay, and then invocable variable, and we'll do label, and this one's going to be what are we going to have this set up as? We could be a list of strings, so we can define that a little bit better. So we can do where clause, where clauses, and we'll do description is equal to list of where clauses and operands. Yeah, we'll do it that way. It's not going to be a list, it's going to be a map. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do map of where clauses. And then, so this is going to be public map, and we're going to say your operand is going to be, do we have a way of, we could enum that. So we could have and or. Yeah, let's go ahead and enum that. So we'll pause there, come back up here to our enum, and we'll have public enum operand. Yeah, operand pre-selected field. I'm going to do pre-selected field set, field group. Yeah, field group. And operand is going to be, it's going to have and's a keyword, isn't it? Or those are already keywords, aren't they? Let's see. Actually, you know what? We're going to try it. See if that lets us get away with it. So I'm going to make this, and I changed the name of my pre-selected fields to be pre-selected field group. So down here, I'm going to have flow query dot, this is going to be operand, and then it's going to be a string. And I'm not entirely sure I like the shape of that, but we're going to go with where clauses. I'm just going to click save here to see if how this works. Nad is asking, what language is this? This is Apex with some invocable methods and variables mixed in, because that's what we're building here today. Let's go with, I've got some typos or bugs in it, and it's going to give me the first one on, let's go with this. What are you doing here? Missing EUF at public. Does it not like, it does not like those. Okay, we're gonna have to enforce that on the front end. So we'll do string. And I'm not even, that's not terribly flexible. What we want is something where we can say, what is this going on? Support map string string. Really? Invocable variable fields have a limitation? I wasn't aware of that. Invocable variable. Salesforce example. Invocable variable annotation. Let's see what the limitations are. Do some examples. Yeah. Where are my supported modifiers? Required true or false. Only annotations. Other annotations can't be used. Any global and public variables can be invocable variables. The invocable variable cannot be one of the following: a non-member variable such as a static or okay, that's fine. A property, that's fine. Final, okay, it's not any of those. The data type of the invocable variable must be one of the following: a primitive, an S object, a list or a list of lists of primitives objects created from an Apex class or collections. A list of maps, maybe a list of collections, or we could do a custom Apex class. Let's try that. So we'll come up here, outside of our request. We're going to create a new class. We're going to do description. This class represents a where clause part. Where clause part of a where clause. Part of a where clause. Okay, we'll do public class where clause part. Where clause part. Nope. And then here we're going to have our variables that we need are going to be public operand, a public string operand. What is this? A misspelled word? Nope. Operand. Okay, and we'll do public string, public string left side, public string comparison method, and then we'll do public string right side. Not entirely happy with the fact that these are strings, but okay. We'll keep going here. So an example of this would be operand equals and left side equals count ID, comparison method equals in, and right side would equal right side would be string. So let's do this. Right side public list ID, right side collection, right side collection, or operand equals and left side equals account ID comparison method equals equals, and then right side. Like that. So we got a few different ways of handling this. We need to be able to throw an exception if we've got both the right side and the right side collection. And I wonder if I can make this more generic by saying this is an S object. List of S objects. We're going to try that. And then down here, public map, it's going to be public list of flow query dot where clauses list of where clauses, etc. So we've got a class, it's an inner class that we're going to parse that and handle it so that we can turn around and access this. Oh, hey, pushing a lot of code here. What are you doing? Failed. List flow query where clause, invocable variable, fields do not support type of list flow query dot where clause. Why not? A list or a list of lists of primitives, a list or a list of lists of primitives, S objects, objects for being created, S's or collections. Does that mean that it needs an invocable variable in it? Because that's probably true. At invocable variable label is equal to which operand should this where clause part which on? That's the label. So operand is the label, and description is which operand should this where clause utilize. Okay, and then at invocable variable label is equal to left side, and description is left side of the comparison, and then we're going to do at invocable variable label right side of the comparison. Hey, I love the way it already put that together for me. Unfortunately, it's the wrong line. We'll put that down there. Way to go, tab 9. Got me 9/10 of the way there. Then we'll do invocable variable label equals comparison method. Put that in a string. And then what we'll do is we'll say description is equal to how should the left side be compared to the right side. Okay. Back over that, right side, and then right side collection. Invocable right side collection description. If the comparison method is in, a collection must be specified here. And it looks like I put a comma where I shouldn't have. Let's go ahead and save this. I'm learning a lot about what it's requiring of me to do in terms of invocable variable fields do not support type of list flow query where clause. So it doesn't like this. List. Did I not give it that name? Invalid type flow query where clause. Okay. What? Okay, where clause part. Aha! Things are becoming clearer. Too clever for my own good by half. Let's see if that saves it. Okay. Adi has got a question, just a thought. String right side and parse it to a collection if it contains a comma. That's true, but part of what we want to be able to do, I mean, Adi, you're spot on. If we were only dealing with this in Apex, I would totally do that. But part of what we want to be able to do is build out that UI through the custom property editor so that you can automatically choose, like a drop-down box, a list that exists. So you may already have a list in your flow that you've created in a previous step or something like that, and you want to say, give me all of the related objects where the account ID is in this list of account IDs. And if you have that list of account IDs already, we just want you to pass that list in. We don't want you to cast it to a string and do all that work in the flow. We want to be able to accept a collection as is. So what we'll do is we'll wrap that logic for the right side in some we'll wrap that variable into some logic that's automatically going to check to see if it is actually a collection, but a string version of a collection, and handle it that way. And we'll do that with a get method here in just a second. But for right now, I feel like we've got our where clauses in there. With security enforced isn't actually going to be anything that we're going to let anybody mess with. We're just going to say security enforced is going to be here. So we're going to leave that there. And then we've got an order by clause. And so let's create that bit in here. So we'll do invocable variable, label, order by, and we'll do description, either descending or ASC. And we'll do public. Why not do Boolean? No, we'll do it. Public string. We're going to do order by. Okay. And we'll do the same thing for invocable variable for label. And we'll do limit to description. Limit to X records, and this is going to be it's going to be a whole number, so integer. Public integer limit to, and we'll do one for offset. We'll do offset by. And we'll do description offset by X records. Okay, reords, it's records. Definitely records. Okay, and then this will also be an integer. Public integer offset by. So we've covered all of those bases. These are all of our order by, offset, and limit. We're going to have the sockle enforce. I'm going to take and drag this down here into our actual builder method. Okay. It deleted my comment. Come back here, comment. I love you, comment. There we go. Okay. So, we've got at least the start of a request coming in. We've got a way for us to talk about different where clauses. And our where clause part is a list. So we're going to have a list of those. We're going to have a list of our result object, and our result object is going to have is our request. I'm scrolling up and down. I'm sorry if I'm doing that in a way that is sea-sickening. Where's my result? Here we go. Yeah. So we're going to have a list of results. We're also going to have a public. We're going to have invocable variable label. It's going to equal to has failure, and we'll do description is true if, or contains any failure information. And I'm going to do public string, we're going to do failure info. That, so we have access to that in our flows. And then let's see, how are we doing time? We got 9 minutes left. We're doing pretty good. I think we're making good progress here. So now in our builder itself, here comes the hard part. All right, we got to put all this together into a string and then execute it as a database query, returning that list. So let's do this. We're going to create a new list of results, a new result object. Put this up here as our first line of code. We're going to do list flow query result return result equal to new that, and then we're immediately going to turn around and we're going to say results is equal to return result dot output. Is that what I called it? No, it's results. Yeah, results. We're not going to do that yet. I lied. Okay, so now we need to build our query. And our query is going to say string query is equal to that. And I'm just going to say down here, we're going to say return result dot results is equal to database dot query, like this. And so down here we're going to have to do some we're gonna have to do this is query is plus equal to a request. We're going to handle one request, so we're going to say flow query dot request is equal to requests 0, and we're going to say request dot selected. Oh, we got to check and see what our selected fields are. So my intention is to make the flow builder as dumb as possible, and we're going to have methods in our request class here that are going to be able to do this for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create on our request class, I'm going to create a public string get select clause, and yep, okay. And then we're going to say if our this dot fields option, and our fields option is a valid enum. So if it's not null, we're going to bias towards using that that option. Is not equal to null, we're going to return the string select fields, and then we'll do this dot plus this dot fields option plus, put a space at the end. Okay. So if that's there, otherwise what we're going to do is else. Do we have an else? That's good. Do we have a third option? Pre-selected fields. We're either going to have the pre-selected field group, and that's going to be valid, or we're going to have the selected fields turn select plus this dot selected fields. And I'm going to do a plus like that. Okay. So down here in our actual builder, we're going to have, it's going to be request dot get select clause like that. And then we're going to do from, so query plus equal to request dot get from clause. And I don't know that we actually have any logic around the from clause here. So from object is going to be an S object. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to make this one required. True. Okay, you have to give me a from object. It's going to be an S object. It's not going to be an S object. It's going to be a string. We might be able to do an S object token, but we're going to verify that. And let's do some safety rails on this. So public string get from clause. And then what we're going to do is we're going to verify that the from clause actually exists. So we're going to say throw new flow query exception invalid, I should put it in quotes, invalid object. And then I'm going to say if I cannot type dot for name and put in here this dot from object dot get name. That's actually going to throw. So let's do this. Try. And if that throws, we want to catch exception E, throw new flow query exception. Okay, so we're going to just kick this out if we don't have a valid object. Come on. Kick that out if we don't have a valid object. And then otherwise, we're going to return from, and we'll put in this dot from object. Yeah. Okay, so we get that. Then down here, we get from clause. Select from, and then we're going to have query is equal to plus equal to request dot generate, because we're going to we'll do get, we'll make it match get where clause, and then we're going to automatically, I'm just going to finish this out here because we're running out of time, plus equals to with security enforced. By the way, our from clause should also from, and we need to put a space in after this. Okay, we don't want these things running into one another. With security enforced, so we've got that. Return result. And then down here, we're going to have query plus equal to request dot get. Let's see, we've got from, and then we have order by, and then we'll do query plus equal to request dot get limit, and then query plus is equal to request dot get offset. Okay, and that should put us in a pretty good spot. I'm going to finish this method, these methods off here over the week, so next week we can build the UI. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everyone, and I will see you again next Thursday. Tune in because we're going to make this into a glorious, wicked, cool UI inside Flow. Talk to you later.